Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Detroit Metro Plug podcast where connections matter. I'm your host, Charles McKay of the Detroit Metro Plug podcast. Every week, we bring you interviews of Detroit difference makers in the area of entrepreneurship and community involvement. So, welcome and thank you for watching us live. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode number 58. Episode number 58. Happy New Year. We are in, what's that, day 22 of the new year. So hopefully you are still on track with your resolutions or your goals. And thanks again. And for those who are watching us live on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, I want to encourage you to like and share. We have a very special guest, a difference maker in the community. And we're going to talk about youth development, the Better Detroit youth movement, and the exciting things that are happening with Detroit's youth. So, thanks again for those who are watching now and who will be watching the playback. So, let me introduce our guests and get right into it. Okay, so just a little information on our next guest for this episode, episode 58. So, our next guest is part social entrepreneur, part nonprofit director, part business owner, part strategy marketer, part event and community organization. He has 15 years uh, as serving as a co-director with the Better Detroit Youth Movement. The Better Detroit Youth Movement is a nonprofit coalition driven by volunteers working together to improve the quality of life and learning for and with our young generation. His truth is Detroit has all the resources to improve the quality of life of young people in the Detroit area. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome to the Detroit Metro Plug podcast none other than R. Lee Gordon.
Good evening, Charles. Good evening to your fan base and millions of listeners around the world. Thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here as we strive to make and bake a greater Detroit that all our children deserve.
Yes, yes. Thank you for your time. And, our platform is a place where we want to celebrate the contributions of Detroiters and who are doing great things and to give them their flowers and recognition for what they're doing. And so, thank you again for being on this podcast. Before we go into the work you're specifically doing with the Better Detroit Youth Movement, uh, I would like for you to share a little bit about yourself with our audience, your background, where you grew up, East Side, West Side, or what schools, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Okay, Charles, first because all I have, oh, there I go. Okay. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question because we had a
Oh yeah,
technical
yeah.
glitch and I lost the camera
Oh,
and I couldn't hear you.
oh yeah. Just a little bit about yourself. Where you grew up. Uh, Anything you feel comfortable with, your family, or
Okay,
just
so
a little about yourself.
yeah, so I grew up in the housing projects of Brooklyn, New York, more
Okay.
than 60 years. And one of the reasons I think that it's so important that we as adults and we as communities of adults um, engage our children is because I recall when I grew up, there were always adults who had a vested interest in my well being, always had a vested interest in my growth. And I don't see that in this world that we live today. It seems like in many ways we become two separate worlds, a world of adults and a world of children. And so a lot of the work that we're doing today is about how to re-engage and enrich our young generation. Because I promise you, in this troubled world, in this troubling world at this tenuous time, post-pandemic, our kids need us more than ever before. And so my work is to be an advocate, to be a vehicle, an instrument to activate communities of caring adults who want to help more young people succeed in school and thrive in life. And again, I attest they need us more than ever before. Um, and so we're always looking for volunteers. I tend to believe that most adults have time, talent, or treasure that they can contribute to our children, that they can invest in our child. And again, we have to look at how to make our children's world um, a little more engaging to get through, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, wow. So your journey started in Brooklyn, New York. You said you grew up in the projects.
Housing projects of Brooklyn, New York.
So how did you?
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
so I was just going to say, so my father was from Detroit, and when I became a young father, I wanted my son to grow up in a gentler, more balanced, more peaceful environment. And so I decided it was time to get out of New York. We thought about living in Florida, but then I thought about hurricanes. We thought about living in California, but then I thought
Right,
about earthquakes.
right, right.
And being that I had family in Detroit, it seemed like a safer location for me to relocate family. However,
Right.
I didn't consider Michigan winters being a natural disaster, so that one's on me. Um, but yeah, I love Detroit. When we talk about Detroit, when you hear about Detroit, it's always what Detroit doesn't have, right? Um,
Right. Mhm.
and I truly believe in my youth work of the past 15 years that Detroit has a world of resources for children, teens, and young adults. We just have to
Okay.
act like it, you know?
Okay.
Um, and so, about 7 years ago, I put together a regional youth resource map of more than 325 youth serving individuals and youth serving organizations throughout the area, many of whom
Okay.
I have collaborated with in the past, so that any child or any parent or caregiver of a child or children can go to this map and find an opportunity for their child or children to be enriched by
Yeah.
these wonderful resources, these inspiring, amazing resources that are all around us. Um, and I then went to a major foundation because the belief was we wanted to turn the map into a mobile app. The
Okay.
rationale being that a lot of teenagers in Detroit may not have a PC on a desk at home, may not have a laptop in a backpack, uh, but we know they have these mobile devices, right? Just
Right.
about every teenager in Detroit has a mobile device. Why don't we use their preferred device of communication to connect them to a world of resources using a mobile app?
Okay.
Um, the foundation graciously declined helping us to develop the mobile app. And one of the young men on my youth advisory board at the time said, Mr. Gordon, those brownies that you bake with your daughter and you bring to our youth events, we're going to help you bake them. We're going to help you sell them. And we're going to fund the mapping effort and build our own Golden Girl Scout cookie.
Okay. Okay.
And at first I looked at Javante like he was a little bit crazy. But the more I thought about it, especially in terms of engaging young people with entrepreneurship, right? Teaching
Right.
them how to start a business, teaching
Hmm.
them how to be successful in business, the more I saw value in actually starting a brownie company.
Okay. Okay.
And so 3 years ago, we started the brownie company. And Charles, I cannot tell your audience, the brownie company has been taking off. I am so grateful for all of the opportunities that these consumers of brownies are providing us.
Right. Right.
Right now, we're in about 5 restaurants throughout the region with our
Okay.
brownies are.
Right.
We have the Meyer account. And
Okay.
once I figure out how to scale production, we will certainly take advantage of Meyer and their shelves.
Okay.
And we are looking at getting into 5 Hollywood markets as early as next week. So
Okay.
um, I'm just really excited because while I've done a lot of youth work over the past 15 years in Detroit, I've never gotten the love that these brownies have gotten over the past 3 years. So it's made me realize that,
Right.
a lot of people love brownies. And so,
Right.
yeah, I'm just really excited about the growth of the company.
Now, if you don't mind, I want to backtrack because you
Sure.
have 15 years of experience with working with you. Just kind of have a better understanding of your story for our audience. So, what
Mhm.
led you? How did you have a passion to work with young people? What was the spark? Were you influenced by something? Was it an event in your life to say, "Hey, I got to do something"?
So it's interesting because, um, early 2000s, I started a marketing company in Pleasant Ridge, which is a little bit south of the Detroit Zoo.
Okay.
Um, and I probably had about 215 or so small business clients. The marketing company was flourishing. But one day I was driving home. I lived in Ann Arbor at the time. One day I was driving home from the office, and out of nowhere, um, I got this I got this calling from a higher power. I don't do religion with people. I don't do politics with people because
Right.
it tends to
Right. I understand.
fragment us rather than bind and unite
Right.
us. But anyway, I got this voice, and it said, "I need you to be my musical bus in helping our children."
Wow.
Out, and again, I've had these epiphanies at certain
Right.
points in my life, but very rarely. And
Right.
so I'm like, musical bus
Like, yeah.
for
What is
children?
that?
What does this mean, right?
What does that mean? Right.
Now, so, and it took me about 3 or 4 days to figure out what I was being asked, what I was being tasked. And I realized that God wanted me to be an instrument. God wanted me to be a vehicle in using my passion for young people, which I've always had. I've been doing community service since I was
Right.
3 or 4 years old in New York City. Um,
Okay.
but he wanted me to use me, and my service to him to serve his children.
Okay.
And yeah, that was the wake up call, Charles.
Wake up call.
And
Okay.
so, a few years later, I met with a couple of other like minded souls.
Right.
Let me
Hmm.
give a shout out to Harlan J. Bivens. He is a owner of Jay's Fades Hair and Nail Salon on
Okay.
Livernois near McNichols. He is
All right.
one of my co-directors.
Okay.
And I met a few other people, and we said, you know what? We're going to start a movement for our children.
Right.
And that was the basis and the beginning of the Better Detroit Youth Movement. Um, Over the past 15 years or so, we've done scholarship fairs at Cobo Hall,
Okay.
awarding millions of dollars in free or low cost scholarship to high school students throughout the region.
Hmm.
We've worked with 36 Wayne District Court, I'm sorry, 36th District Wayne County Juvenile Court on a first time juvenile offender
Right.
with alcohol or drug abuse issues, substance abuse issues, as a form of intervention. We've done Live in Peace art parties at Wayne State.
Hmm.
Um, we've done healthy youth resource fairs at Don Bosco, job fairs at Burt's Warehouse. We started an initiative that you may have heard of called the Million Father March, which
Okay.
was an initiative that encourages fathers to be involved in the educational lives of their children and students.
Yes.
Um, so we've done a lot of work. We got proclamations from Detroit City Council for some of our events and initiatives in the
Okay.
past. But um, over that period of time, I've had opportunity to mentor high school students and talk to the students at the scholarship fairs and various events and through our work. And what I find is that a lot of teenagers in the Detroit area simply don't know where to go to grow.
Okay.
And that we needed to sort of close that gap in terms of connecting them to the amazing, inspiring, wonderful youth serving individuals and youth serving groups throughout the region who are there to help them succeed or in school, help them succeed in life.
Wow.
And again, that was the impetus and rationale for developing the regional youth resource mapping effort.
All right. So you began the story. You're obviously you're a business person. You had a boutique marketing firm out in Pleasant
Hmm.
Ridge, and
Hmm.
then you one day you just have this divine uh,
Yep.
voice or divine experience that just laid on your heart
Yep.
to be an instrument to help you. So when you
Yep.
started meeting like-minded people, what was the resource thing the first thing you started? What were some of the
No.
programs you initially started
So
15
we did
years
a
ago?
lot of high school mentoring
Okay.
primarily
Okay.
in our early years. Um, One of our first bigger events that we've hosted for maybe 5 years was the Detroit Scholarship Fair at Cobo that I
Okay.
mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, we had high school students from around the region, as far as way from Wisconsin all the way down to Indiana, come up for this event. Brought in
Mhm.
40 to 50 universities and colleges and higher learning institutions from around the country. And again, they awarded low cost or no cost scholarships to hundreds of students.
Okay.
And again, I use that opportunity to talk to young people, understand what their goals are, what their needs are, what their
Okay.
aspirations are, how
Right.
we as a youth movement can help them, um, to succeed and to become productive adults. And again, that sort of gave me a greater understanding that there was so many young people who want better, but again, didn't know where to go to find better, right?
Okay. Right.
And
Right.
that was the premise of starting the regional youth resource map, because a lot of the folks on the map were other individuals and groups that we've collaborated with
Right.
over the years. And so, um, it's interesting that when I think about the mapping effort, at the time, I personally put down more than 325 youth
Wow.
serving
Right.
resources on this map. Fast forward to today and post pandemic, we're down to about 80 on this map, because the
Wow.
pandemic shut down so many of these youth serving individuals and youth serving groups when they
Wow.
could no longer work with children,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Wow.
so, a lot of the effort with our current work is repopulating the resource map.
Okay.
Um,
Can
and
you
so,
give
if
our audience?
anybody,
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
No, can you give our audience what are some examples that of resources that was a part of this map, resourcing map?
Yeah, I mean, we had hundreds of different. Detroit Impact is on there. Alternative for Girls.
Okay.
All of these incredible um, um, Building Better Men. Otis Bellinger, another great group. Calvin Mann,
Right.
Encourage Me, I'm Young. We had so many resources on there, and again, part of the rationale, as I mentioned, for starting the brownie company is we wanted to use sales of our brownies
Right.
to help to refine the mapping effort, right?
Okay. Okay.
Um, I'll also point out that on our packaged brownies, there is a QR code on the back label that when you scan it will redirect consumers to the regional youth resource map. And
Okay.
so, in many ways, it's our mission and vision to engage and satisfy consumers with these brownies to support the success of our children.
Okay. Okay. So that explains the um the whole point with the brownie company to support the mapping. And now you said that I saw on your on some of the literature and preparing for this interview, at one
Mhm.
point there was 325 resources, as you said, but you're saying post pandemic is down to 80
Yes,
youth
sir.
serving resources. Wow.
Yes, sir. And so, again, I still believe that there's hundreds of resources out there that should be on the map but aren't.
Right.
And so, if anyone within earshot knows of youth resources, please go to betterdetroityouth.org
Hmm.
and input those resources. Um, we are really excited, Charles, because since the pandemic, we haven't worked directly with young people as much as we once did when we were mentoring in the high schools and when we were hosting
Right.
these large
Right.
scale events and initiatives.
Right.
So even as a youth movement, as our nonprofit group um, moves forward today, we have decided that we are going to pivot and we are going to use our capabilities to highlight more awareness and support for
Okay.
our youth serving individuals and groups. And so, again, sales of our brownies are also going to be used to support other wonderful community and youth causes as well.
Okay, that's awesome. So I want to get more in detail with the brownie, the Better Detroit Brownie Company.
Mhm.
What I found fascinating, it appears that so these are young people that's involved. Is there like an entrepreneurship dynamic to it? Are they
Yes.
handling the business and also learning entrepreneur business management, marketing skills as well?
So they were baking brownies with me until we got the Meyer account.
Okay.
Since that time, and this was probably 6, 9 months ago, I haven't been baking with young people. I've been primarily responsible for baking brownies.
Right.
But I am thrilled to say that we have a memorandum of understanding with a high school that we will be partnering with. They
Okay.
have a culinary arts program. And so,
Okay.
what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go into the school. I'm going to work with their culinary arts students to scale production.
Okay. Great.
We're going to be able to have more brownies in more restaurants and retailers. We
Okay.
may be able to really start to fill up the shelves in all of the Myers in the area.
Okay.
Um, and I'm thrilled because I miss working with young people.
Okay.
Um, I want to teach them life skills, teach them emotional self control skills. I want
Hmm.
to teach them business skills. But most importantly, from my perspective, I want to teach them something that too many of them don't realize.
Okay.
They are here to be a blessing, they are here to help others. And so, if my 14-year-old daughter can go out and make $115 in an hour selling brownies, how much money can your daughter make, Charles, or your son make?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
she kept $65 of that, but then she donated $50 back to the Better Detroit Youth Movement.
Hmm.
And so when you are able to empower a young person with an understanding that they have the potential and power to make good money, but more importantly, they are going to use some of their power and potential to support other wonderful community and youth causes, it changes their perspective about the world. Again, they realize that they're here to be a blessing. Again,
Right.
one of the greatest sources of joy that they may ever know and they may ever feel is the joy of helping others,
Okay.
right? It gives them a greater sense of importance. And again, I think that makes them feel better about the world, generally speaking.
Now, I saw some of the on the website some of the testimonies. What has been the impact of the Better Detroit Youth Movement and the Better Detroit Brownie Company on lives of young people?
Well, so right now we have one high school that we will be going into, and we will be again teaching young people life skills, emotional self control skills,
Hmm.
business skills, social entrepreneurship skills, digital marketing skills. And then they are going to go out and they are going to sell brownies
Hmm.
and they're going to make good money, but more importantly, take some of that money and pay it forward to other wonderful causes.
Okay.
Um, One of the most, and we're also talking to a middle school, Blackwell Institute, Tuesday morning about partnering with that school.
Okay.
We're talking to Detroit School of Arts, Midtown Detroit, about partnering with that school. Go Lightly is also interested. And
Okay.
so we are going to bring our program to different schools. We're talking to a church now as well to engage and enrich young people with what we call the Business and Baking Academy, whereby
Oh,
we'll
okay.
teach them how to bake brownies if um, the school or the church has a commercial kitchen to bake out of.
Hmm.
But more importantly, we're teaching them life skills, we're teaching them business skills, and we
Okay.
can move them into the business development aspect of the brownie company where they can make good
Okay.
money, but at the same time do good as well.
Okay. So the Business Bacon Academy is not only teaching them the business skills, but they're learning life skills. Now, is it? Are you offering like classes, training, or how does that how does that program work?
So it's going to vary from venue to venue. Like I mentioned, if it's a school with a commercial kitchen, then we can teach them business services for the brownie company. We can teach them baking. We can teach them food science. We can
Okay.
teach them production. We could teach them labeling and packaging and distribution.
Right.
But
Right.
if that venue doesn't have a commercial kitchen, we can simply focus on life skills.
Okay.
Uh, Charles, we live in a world now where most of us are governed with fear and or anger, right?
Right. Right. Hmm.
Um, this pandemic has taken a toll on all of our souls in some capacity. I believe that most adults are hurting or healing, troubled or traumatized. And
Right.
imagine what becomes of the children when you have a world of adults that is
Hmm.
struggling. Um,
Right.
and so we want to teach them emotional self control skills to get through all the poo in the zoo that they're going through.
Right.
Um,
Right.
right? We
Right.
want to teach them personal and character development skills. Again, I call them life skills.
Right.
Um, and then we want to put them in a position that they can be successful now that they have these life skills to go
Hmm.
out and be a blessing by selling
Right.
brownies, or if they just want to start their own business and learn entrepreneurship, we offer those opportunities as well.
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. So that's great. So you guys are working relationships with several schools and churches. Some schools have commercial kitchens, but you're also doing some other things, teaching life skills, soft skills, and just preparing young people for the future. So you have the brownies. How do people, if they want to support what you're doing and want to purchase brownies, what's the best way of doing that?
BetterDetroitBrownies.com.
Okay.
And so what we do is we deliver freshly baked brownies to our
Hmm.
customers. Uh, I am so grateful. I've been spending a lot of time in the kitchen these days, Charles, fulfilling customer orders. We have, and let me share with your audience too that we spent 2 August, the August of 2017 and the 2018 in the kitchen with my kids and kids on the block and kids in the youth group and community, baking dozens of brownie recipes. And our contention was we don't have to be the best brownie, but the best brownie that we can be.
Okay.
And the 2nd August, after dozens of brownie recipes, we finally came up with a dark cocoa brownie that we felt was worthy of our children and adults would enjoy too. Um, and once we had our dark cocoa variety, we decided let's come up with a brownie variety that if people like, they have to consider doing business with us to get. And we created a sweet and spicy brownie
Okay.
that when we first went out to the world's largest food truck rally, and this was fall of 2018, I took 4 kids, 250 brownies, and we sold out in less than 2 hours.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and the sweet and spicy brownie is our most popular variety.
Okay.
Um, and as the brownie company goes, we're going to roll out other varieties. We're working on a vegan brownie right now.
Okay.
Um, I love to cook. I love to bake. I'm the chef and the baker at home. My wife is the handyman, so don't ask me to fix the sink because busy. I'm busy playing with the stove. Um, and so in the future, we're going to roll out all kinds of different varieties of brownies once we have brand recognition, greater brand awareness, and we have the
Okay.
customer base that we know will support them.
All right. So people can go to directly to I have the websites here. They can go to the website to place an order, and then the order
Yes.
is fulfilled by delivery, mail, or
Yep.
how does it?
Yep.
How do you
So
guys
we
fulfill
deliver
orders?
brownies. We deliver brownies within a 50-mile radius of
Okay.
Detroit.
All right.
Um, we bake every order fresh
Mm-hmm.
as they come in. Usually takes anywhere from 48 to 72 hours
Okay.
because we bake twice a week,
Right.
Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
and yeah, so every brownie order that we delivered has been freshly baked,
Okay.
and yeah, it's a as much a blessing again as a burden because I find myself baking all day Wednesday and baking all day Saturday, but I'm so grateful for all the wonderful that's growing on.
Right. 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 So they go to the www.betterdetroitbrownies.com. They can place an order, and then within you said
No
within
more than
48 hours.
72 hours. It's usually within 72 hours we can deliver them their order.
Now, do you guys? And I'm not sure. I'm just asking just to clarify. Is it you guys deliver it, or is it through DoorDash,
No,
or
no, we
you have
deliver.
a you do personally deliver? Okay, wow.
Personally deliver.
Now, how would that?
And
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, and one of the things that again really buoys my heart is the number of repeat customers that we are
Okay.
getting.
Okay.
I am a youth serving director who has been willingly thrust into this commercial baking space.
Okay.
We're fully licensed by the Michigan Department of Agriculture
Okay.
as what's called a limited wholesale food processor.
Okay.
Um, we have a waiting list of restaurants. Like I said, we have the Meyer account. Looks
Right.
like we're
Right.
getting onto Hollywood Markets, 5 stores as early as next week.
Okay.
And we're commercially insured. I had to
Okay.
take my Serve Safe certification as a food manager.
Right. Right.
That's part of getting licensed.
Hmm.
And just the outpouring of open mouths
Okay.
and the support of consumers has been very, very rewarding.
Wow. Wow. So it's not right now. You can order directly through the website, but currently, are they on any store shelves at this time, or?
We're in 5 restaurants throughout
Okay.
the area.
Hmm.
We are not on any store shelves right now because I'm not even thinking about Meyer. Again,
Okay.
Meyer is the largest regional retailer in the Midwest.
Okay.
Someone recently told me they're all the way out in Arizona these days. So um, we're climbing the ladder one rung at a time, Charles.
Okay. All right. Great.
Once again, I have the students baking with me again, then we will look at scaling production, scaling
Okay.
yield, and
Awesome.
we're going to take advantage of the Meyer opportunity. We have a waiting list of restaurants that want to
Okay.
carry our brownies. Um, I'm even afraid of Hollywood Market and their 5 stores until I have students taking the brownies with me because that might be another whole day in the
Right.
kitchen to
Right.
take care
Right.
of them.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
Hollywood Market have 5 stores
Right.
surrounding Detroit,
Okay.
um, a more affluent consumer base that we want to avail. And let me also qualify, Charles, that it's not just about Detroit children. The reality is our children need us wherever we adults are.
Right.
And
Right.
we really have
Absolutely.
to look at how to create a more thriving ecosystem for young people where they can go to the resource map that is
Right.
currently on betterdetroityouth.org and they can find a program, they can find
Right.
a an initiative that they want to be a part of. Again, our kids want something better. We just want to
Right.
point them in that direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to take a break for a quick announcement I'm going to run. And then when I get back, we're going to talk about any future programs you have coming up. And we'll talk about how people can work directly with you if they want to volunteer. And then I have some closing questions for you. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Charles with Detroit Metro Plug Podcast. If you are finding value in today's video, I invite you to subscribe, like, and comment. We would love to hear your feedback. And don't forget to click on that notification bell so you can be notified when we have upcoming episodes of difference makers in the area of entrepreneurship and community involvement. If you're interested in being a part of our Facebook networking community, I invite you to click on the link to be a part of that community. This is a place where you can network with like-minded people and a chance to share about your product or service. If you're interested in working with me directly on how you can share your story with video or with podcasting, you can email me direct at DetroitMetroPlug313@gmail.com. Thanks again, and let's get back to this interview.
All right, welcome back to the Detroit Metro Plug podcast, episode 58. Thank you for those who've been watching us live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We have our very special guest, R. Lee Gordon. He shared about his 15 years of experience with youth development, specifically with working with the Better Detroit Youth Movement and the Better Detroit Brownie Company. He was sharing about all the things that they're doing. Now, do you mind going specifically with some upcoming programs or announcements that you may have?
Yes. So we have two events coming up. We have the Motor City Youth Fest, which is taking place Saturday, June 24th. And this is going to be an all-day youth talent show. And what we find is that when we put young people on the stage and in the spotlight, mama shows up, daddy shows up,
Right.
Auntie and Pookie show up, and we fill the seats in the stands, right? And
Right.
so we did one of these youth fests pre-pandemic, probably maybe 10 years ago. And this event started at noon and ended at 2 in the morning.
Wow.
We had so
Whoa,
many young
wow.
people. We
Wow.
had so many young people that wanted to just have their day on the stage, right?
Right.
Have their time in the spotlight. And
Right.
what we do with the Motor City Youth Fest is we bring in youth resources to the event so that we're also connecting these young people to wonderful individuals and groups that they can be a part of long after the event is over.
And that's when you said June. What was that?
June 24th.
Where would that
We
be held at?
also,
Would that be
this will
you
be
have a
held
location?
at Durfee Innovation Society.
Oh, Durfee. Okay,
Next
I've
to
been there.
Central. Yep,
Yeah.
next to Central High School.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Okay. Great.
And then I don't remember the date, but we're also going to be the exclusive sweets vendor, the Brownie Company is, at an event with Saba Baby,
Okay.
who is a well-known Detroit musical artist.
Right.
And this event is in March. And so people can go to our Instagram page for the Better Detroit Brownie Company. I just posted the flyer this weekend. I don't
Okay.
remember the date. I want to say it's I know it's in March. I just don't know what day it is in March.
Okay.
We'd love to see you come out and support because it will also be benefiting Detroit youth. And we will also be nominating a Father of the Year with an Entrepreneur Award. So
Okay.
that's going to be a very exciting event. We're pleased to be a part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and as we continue to know that it's safe for us to stick our heads outside and
Right.
hang
Right.
out in public again, we'll have other events coming up from time to time. Our
Okay.
goal primarily these days is less about events, more about getting into the schools and the youth groups
Right.
at churches
Right.
and
Right.
getting young people back on the right track because, the pandemic
Okay.
slowed them down, right? They
Right.
lost
Right.
2 years or so,
Right.
two
Right.
school years due to the
Yes.
pandemic. So we have to help them catch up to get ahead and
Yes.
again to
Yes.
succeed in life.
Yes. I appreciate what you're doing, the events that's coming up, and the support. And just want to give some air horns for all the work that you're doing, and just want to celebrate your contributions to our city. So, what's the best way we can be of support? Let's say somebody's watching, they want to volunteer, or maybe give a donation to your organization. What's the best way they can reach you and give support?
So let me give you a couple of opportunities. One, you can always go to betterdetroityouth.org. We have a donate button on the website. You can reach out to me directly at the number shown on the screen, 313-597-7888. Talk about how you can volunteer with the Better Detroit Youth Movement. I again attest that most adults have time, talent, or treasure to invest in our children and contribute to a child. And so we want to activate that as a youth movement. We want to encourage people to be involved in enriching our children regionally. It's not just about Detroit. Like I said, there's kids in Pontiac who need us. There's kids in Ypsi who need us too. And so our efforts really need to be about helping kids wherever we adults are. And what does that look like? How do we manifest that? How do we grow that?
Okay, so they can go to the website, the betterdetroityouth.org, and there's a donate button. And then we have the listed phone number if they're interested in volunteering, the 313-597-7888. As we wrap things up, Brother Gordon, I was curious to know what maybe influencers or people, or maybe even books that have influenced you that you can recommend for our audience.
When we live in a time, people often tell me that I should write a book, and my response is, you know what? The people who need it wouldn't read it. Okay. We live in the YouTube era these days, right? And the reality is there's no excuse for anyone, young or old, to be stupid, because you can go to YouTube and learn to
Yes.
be anything you want to be. You can Google it and get a lot of information these days.
Okay.
One of the things that I do look at, and I'm actually reading this amazing book right now. It's called You're a Genius, and I Can Prove It. Let me put it
Okay.
on the screen.
There you
Hold on
go.
a second, guys. And this is by a friend of mine, Kimberly Kasner, from Empower Mind.
Okay.
And it really helps kids to, with their focus, with their memorization, and with their information retention, right?
Right.
It's suggested that because we now reside in the YouTube era, we all have the attention spans of gnats or rats or rabbits, right? And we don't, I'm getting old. I don't remember what I had for dinner last night. And so simply retaining information is a lot more challenging than it may have been, even 10 years, 20 years ago, right?
Mhm.
I'm very aware of that when I work with young people. I make sure that they got it before I assume that they get it, right? And
Right.
so information retention is so important. You got to climb the ladder one rung at a time. And so when I work with a young person, I make sure that they understand each rung before they climb to the next one.
Right.
This is an excellent book. I'm halfway through it. I have books everywhere. Another book that I'm reading is Profit First. There's a lot
Okay.
of information in that I want to apply to the Brownie Company
Okay.
and our Young Entrepreneur Program.
Right.
The really cool thing about the Brownie Company is at some point, Charles, I'm hoping that young people run the company.
Yes.
The truth is, once my wife gets her pension, I'm getting a houseboat on a river in Tennessee, and I'm living off the grid. I'm gonna bring my books and my fishing rods, and I'm living off the grid because us human beings have proven overrated from where I sit, man.
Right.
And so I've had my time in the shine and my fun in the sun. I want young people to feel like they are a part of something special and significant. I want to give them the skills, first the life skills that they need to feel significant, and then give them opportunities in the Brownie companies to prove how significant that they are.
Yes.
It's one thing with young people, we talk about concept rather than application. We give them the fish rather than the fishing rod. I'm sure you've heard of that phrase, right? And so we want to give them something that is long-standing, something that can better them, not just during their teen years and their young adult years, but for the rest of their life. And teaching them about business ownership and entrepreneurialism is a wonderful way to empower them. Teaching them about the value of giving back to others is a wonderful way to sustain them. And that's what it's all about.
Yes. Well, Brother Gordon, I really appreciate you and the work that you're doing with the Better Detroit Youth Movement and the Better Detroit Brownie Company. I just want to just say, hey, this is our way of giving you your flowers and the work that you're doing. I admire your passion for helping young people and your concern about their well-being. So I encourage our audience, those who are watching live and those who will watch this on the playback on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, if you're inclined, you want to volunteer, we'll have the information in the description for the YouTube playback, but we shared the number today. If you're interested in volunteering or donating, go to the website. So, in closing, do you have a phrase or a philosophy that you live by?
Um, Again, Detroit has all the resources required to improve the quality of life and learning for our young generation. We just have to act like it. Our children aren't failing as much as we're failing our children. We need to step up. We need to show up. Just imagine what our children will become when we adults grow up. And that's my inspiration. As you mentioned, that's my passion. To encourage others to get involved in the enrichment of our children. I have one ask, Charles. If anyone is listening to the show or should listen to the show in the future and knows of a youth resource that we can add to betterdetroityouth.org and our mapping effort there, please do so. Part of the work, again, is proving that Detroit has all the resources to improve the quality of life and learning for her children. Thank you. I appreciate you, Charles. It's been a joy talking with you. I appreciate you allowing us a platform to share our work, our mission, and our vision. And in closing, if we all do a little, our children will accomplish a lot.
If we all do a little, our children will accomplish a lot. Thanks again, Brother Gordon, for being on the Detroit Metro Plug podcast.
Thank you, Charles. And I know we'll be working together in the future. And next show, we're going to bring some young people on who will show you how powerful the work that we're doing truly is, and show you how excited it is when we support their success. So thank you again. I truly appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we will be looking forward for the opportunity for us to work again. Thank you.
Thank you. And good night, everybody. Let's stay happy and healthy in the new year and beyond.
Yes. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us for episode 58. That concludes our podcast for today. Again, every week we bring you interviews of Detroit difference makers in the area of entrepreneurship and community involvement. And I will see you next week.